fruit type, it is called incompatible, means the pistil will reject the pollen. We have also studied about types of fruits. True fruits are those where only ovary participates, whereas false fruits are those where any other part of flower also participates in their development. There are some seedless fruits which develop without fertilization and are known as Parthenocarpic fruits. Here I told you that Parthenocarpic fruits are getting more popular because seedless fruits are more in demand. Next we learnt about incompatibility, which means inability of viable gametes to fuse and produce viable offsprings. This incompatibility is due to various reasons which can vary from inability of pollen grains to germinate over stigma or inability of pollen grains to reach stigma. Now, whenever we talk about incompatibility, the other special modes of reproduction which are covered under the term Apomixis come to our mind. A plant that reproduces by Apomixis or that has been produced by Apomixis is known as apomictic. I told you Apomixis is an asexual type of reproduction in which the plant embryos grow from egg cells without being fertilized by the male part of the plant, that is pollen. Polyembryony is a phenomenon where two or more embryos get developed from a single fertilized egg. Enough for today. Let me ask you some questions. I expect that you would be able to answer these. First question is, what is emasculation? Answer: if the female parent bears bisexual flowers, removal of anthers from the flower bud before the anther dehisces using a pair of forceps is referred to as emasculation. Next question is, what are endospermic seeds? Also give some examples. The answer is, these are seeds in which endosperm persists in the seeds as food storage tissue. Examples of such seeds are castor, maize, wheat, etc. Next question is, give 3 examples of non-endospermic seeds. The answer is, examples of non-endospermic seeds are pea, gram, bean, etc. My next question is, what are true fruits? Answer: true fruits are those where no other parts of flower apart from ovary participated. Next question is, give some examples of false fruits. The answer is, example of false fruits are apple, strawberry, etc. Next question, what are parthenocarpic fruits? The answer is, these fruits which develop without fertilization are known as parthenocarpic fruits. The next question is, name some food varieties which have been altered genetically to produce seedless fruits. The answer is, a number of food varieties like banana, pineapple, grapes, etc. are altered genetically to produce seedless fruits. My next question is, what is incompatibility? The answer is, inability of viable gametes of 2 species to fuse and form viable offsprings. Next question, list 2 main reasons for incompatibility. The answer is, 2 main reasons for incompatibility are inability of pollen grains to germinate over stigma, inability of pollen grains to reach stigma. The next question is, Name various types of incompatibility. The answer to this is interspecific incompatibility and intraspecific incompatibility. The next question is, what is interspecific incompatibility? Answer, it prevents free cross-fertilization amongst members of different species. Next question is, what is intraspecific incompatibility? The answer is inability of a plant to produce viable seeds on self-pollination is called self-incompatibility. The next question is, name the mode of reproduction in which seeds or embryos are formed without fusion of male and female gametes. The answer is Apomixis. The next question is, what is Parthenogenesis? Answer, Parthenogenesis means virgin birth, that is, formation of embryo from unfertilized egg. Next question, name organisms reproducing through Apomixis. Answer, organisms produced by Apomixis are known as apomictic. My next question is, name 4 types of Apomixis. And the answer is Parthenogenesis, apogamy, apospory and Adventive embryony. Next question, what is Adventive embryony? The answer is the development of embryo directly from the diploid cells of ovule lying outside the embryo sac belonging to either nucleus or integuments is referred to as Adventive embryony. My next question is, what is polyembryony? The answer is polyembryony is a phenomenon where 2 or more embryos get developed from a single fertilized egg. I hope all your doubts about incompatibility, apomixis and parthenogenesis are clear today, and hope you are looking forward to the next class. Thank you.
Reproduction is an important characteristic feature of living organisms. You all know that it is an essential life process which not only helps in survival but also help in continuing the race. The group becomes immortal as by reproduction the old and dying ones are replaced by young ones. Reproduction may happen by two means, either sexual or asexual. Sexual reproduction is the formation of offspring by the fusion of gametes. Asexual reproduction is the formation of offspring without the fusion of gametes. Among all living organisms, plants are the most varied physically and show the greatest diversity in methods of reproduction of all biological systems. Based on the level of complexity, the mode of reproduction in plants varies from one species to another. In recent years, the increasing complexity of reproduction process in plants has helped the scientists to look into many different processes. Biologists have been using numerous terms to describe the different modes of reproduction. In our today's class, we will discuss about such different terms.
Dear students, जदकि सारे flowering plants sexual reproduction ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਪਰ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ plants ਨੇ reproduction ਲਈ ਹੋਰ plants ਦੇ comparatively better methods adopt ਕਰ ਲਏ ਹਨ। ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਕਲਾਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ modes ਅਤੇ phenomena ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਾਂਗੇ। ਪਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ lesson ਦੇ learning objectives share ਕਰ ਲਵਾਂ।
On completion of this topic, learners will be able to discuss about pollen-pistil interaction, discuss post-fertilization changes means seed and fruit formation, define parthenocarpy, define incompatibility, discuss the significance of incompatibility, describe reasons of incompatibility, define apomixis, describe methods of apomixis.
Let us first start with pollen-pistil interaction. After pollination, the pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma, but it does not guarantee the transfer of the right type of pollen, means pollen compatible to the stigma. Often, pollen of the wrong type, either from other species or from the same plant, land on the stigma. The pistil has the ability to recognize the pollen, whether it is of the right type or of the wrong type. If it is of the right type, it is called compatible, means after this type of pollination, the pistil accepts the pollen and promotes post-pollination changes that lead to fertilization. If the pollen is of the wrong type, it is called incompatible, means the pistil rejects the pollen by preventing pollen germination on the stigma or the pollen tube growth through the style. It is only in the recent years that botanists have been able to identify some of the pollen and pistil paths and the interactions between them, which lead to the recognition followed by acceptance or rejection. Here, with the word acceptance, I mean compatibility, and rejection means incompatibility of the pollen to germinate. This compatibility and incompatibility is determined by special types of proteins present on stigma.
As we discussed just now, if pollens are accepted by the stigma after proper recognition, it leads to a compatible pollination. For a compatible pollination, the stigma plays an important role in germination of pollen grain. It secretes fluid containing liquids, gums, sugar, and resins. After absorbing these chemicals, a pollen grain germinates on the stigma to produce a pollen tube through one of the germ pores. Maximum growth takes place in the tip region. The contents of the pollen grain move into the pollen tube. The pollen tube grows through the tissue of the style. Here it reaches ovary.
Students, as I told you earlier, pollen-pistil interaction is a dynamic process involving pollen recognition followed by promotion or inhibition of the pollen. Sometimes, even in incompatible pollination, to get desired hybrids, artificial hybridization is done. This is a crop improvement method where it is made sure that only the desired pollen grains are used for pollination and the stigma is protected from contamination. This is achieved by emasculation and bagging techniques. Let me explain you what is emasculation. If the female parent bears bisexual flowers, removal of anthers from the flower bud before the anther dehisces using a pair of forceps is referred to as emasculation. Emasculated flowers have to be covered with a bag of suitable size, generally made up of butter paper, to prevent contamination of its stigma with unwanted pollen. This process is called bagging. When the stigma of bagged flower attains receptivity, mature pollen grains collected from anthers of the male parent are dusted on the stigma and the bags are put again on these flowers. The fruits are allowed to develop in these bagged flowers. If the female parent produces unisexual flowers, there is no need for emasculation. The female flower buds are bagged before the flowers open. When the stigma becomes receptive, pollination is carried out using the desired pollen and the flower is rebagged. Here I just wanted to explain how important is pollen-pistil interaction in sexual reproduction of flowers. Now let's discuss about seed and fruit formation. आओ पहला मैं तुहानू ओ प्रोसेस रिकॉल करवा दियां जिस राही प्लांट्स विच फ्रूट ਅਤੇ सीड्स बनते ਹਨ। सीड्स ਅਤੇ फ्रूट ਦਾ ਬਣਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਕਸੈਸਫੁਲ ਫਰਟੀਲਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਨਤੀਜਾ ਹੈ। ਫਰਟੀਲਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੋ ਪੋਲੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਦੀ ਮੇਲ ਅਤੇ ਫੀਮੇਲ ਗਮੀਟਸ ਦੇ ਮਿਲਣ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਿਆ ਹੈ। Let's see a video to recall what happens after fertilization.
During double fertilization, when male gametes enter in ovule, two structures are produced. These structures are a diploid zygote or oospore and a triploid primary endosperm cell. Zygote gets transformed into embryo and primary endospermic mother cell forms endosperm. If you remember, we also discussed that endosperm provides nourishment to the growing embryo. This way, endosperm gets utilized by embryo for its growth. The fertilized ovules mature and convert into seeds. In some seed plants, endosperm persists in the seeds as food storage tissue. These seeds are known as endospermic seeds like seeds of castor, maize, wheat, etc. Other seeds which do not have any remnant of endosperms in them are known as non-endospermic seeds like pea, gram, bean, etc. The food for later development of embryo in such seeds is stored in cotyledons. The tissue of the ovary wall is stimulated to grow along with seed formation. Ovary wall produces a fruit wall or pericarp and ripened ovary enclosing the seeds forms fruit.
Students, you must have studied about true fruit and false fruit. True fruits are those where no other parts of flower apart from ovary participated. For example, mango, orange. Second category of fruits is of false fruits, are those where any other part of flower also participates. Example of false fruits are apple, strawberry, etc. There is third type of fruit also which develop without fertilization. Example is banana. You must be getting surprised that how a fruit develops without fertilization. Just think whether such plants will have seeds or not. In fact, these are seedless fruits. These fruits which develop without fertilization are also known as Parthenocarpic fruits. You know, Parthenocarpy can be induced artificially also. In fact, it is getting more popular because seedless fruits are more in demand. If we want to list the reasons for liking of seedless fruits, these are: seeds become irritants during fruit eating. Processing of fruits for packaging and extracting juice needs an extra exercise of seed removal. A number of food varieties like banana, pineapple, grapes, etc. have been altered genetically to produce seedless fruits. Hormonal treatment enables flowers to develop seedless fruits without stimulus of pollination. The two commonly used hormones are auxins and gibberellins. Tomato produces seedless fruit if treated with auxin, while grapevine forms seedless fruits on being treated with gibberellins. There are some natural factors like low temperature, frost and fog which may induce parthenocarpy.
This all we discussed till now is basically due to ability of viable gametes to fuse with each other. But as we have already discussed incompatibility factors in certain gametes, the reason for this incompatibility may be listed like this: inability of pollen grains to germinate over stigma, inability of pollen grains to reach stigma. Basically, incompatibility is of two types: interspecific incompatibility, intra-specific incompatibility. Interspecific incompatibility prevents free cross-fertilization amongst members of different species. It acts as a natural barrier in the fusion of gametes from two different species. By doing so, genetic individuality of the species is maintained. Intraspecific incompatibility is also known as self-incompatibility. It is inability of plant in producing male and female gametes when self-pollinated. It is mechanism in which breeding is prevented and outbreeding is promoted. Means it prevents self-pollination and promotes cross-pollination.
This incompatibility is due to various reasons which can vary from inability of grains to germinate over stigma or inability of pollen grains to reach stigma. Whatever may be the reasons for incompatibility, in nature, a balanced breeding of the plants is regulated by incompatibility, as extensive selfing of plants leads to highly homozygous individuals with a very low survival value. To overcome this, nature has imposed self-incompatibility, but despite the natural value, incompatibility may turn out to be a serious hurdle in plant improvement program. Before the introduction of anther culture technique, selfing was chief method to obtain homozygous individual. In plants where anther culture has failed to yield haploids, self-pollination continues to be an important approach. In this, incompatibility is a serious problem. Now, when we discuss about incompatibility, immediately first thing comes in our mind is that difficulty in reproduction. And when we think of any special mode of reproduction, term Apomixis and Polyembryony comes to our mind. According to Winkler, Apomixis is the substitution of sexual reproduction by an asexual process which does not involve any nuclear fusion. The term Apomixis is general and covers all types of asexual reproduction which may replace or act as substitute for sexual method. Apomixis, or the production of viable seeds without pollination. These seeds are produced from flowers just as regular seeds are, but no pollen is involved. The plants grown from such seeds are perfect clones of the original plant. Means apomixis is a natural method of reproduction which results in producing seedlings that are genetically identical to the mother plant, or we may say that improved hybrids are produced. A plant that reproduces by apomixis or that has been produced by apomixis is known as apomictic. ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਓ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਮਾਹਿਰਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹਾਈਬ੍ਰਿਡ ਵੈਰਾਈਟੀਜ਼ ਬੀਜਣ ਦੀ ਸਿਫਾਰਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਵੱਧ ਝਾੜ ਦਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਘੱਟ ਰੱਖ ਰਖਾਵ ਅਤੇ ਖਰਚਾ ਵੀ ਘੱਟ ਮੰਗਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਪਰ ਹਾਈਬ੍ਰਿਡ ਵੈਰਾਈਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੰਗਲ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਮੇਨਟੇਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਔਖਾ ਹੈ। ਵਧੇਰੇ ਝਾੜ ਨੂੰ ਬਰਕਰਾਰ ਰੱਖਣ ਲਈ ਹਾਈਬ੍ਰਿਡ ਸੀਡਸ ਨੂੰ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਤਿਆਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਕਾਫੀ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਤੋਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਦੂਰ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਲਈ ਹਾਈਬ੍ਰਿਡ ਟ੍ਰੇਡਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਡੈਫੀਨਿਟ ਪੀਰੀਅਡ ਲਈ ਬਰਕਰਾਰ ਰੱਖਣ ਲਈ ਵਿਗਿਆਨੀ ਟੈਕਨੋਲੋਜੀ ਦੀ ਭਾਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ। Let's learn more about apomixis.
Apomixis. Apomixis is an asexual type of reproduction in which the plant embryos grow from egg cells without being fertilized by pollen, the male part of the plant. Here, we can say that apomixis is a natural way of cloning plants through seed. There are 4 types of apomixis: Parthenogenesis, Apogamy, Apospory, Adventive embryony. Parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis refers to development of embryo, usually from the egg cell or a male gamete, without fertilization. This we have already discussed in detail. Apogamy. The origin of embryo from either synergids or antipodal cells of the embryo sac is called as apogamy. Apospory. In apospory, first diploid cell of ovule lying outside the embryo sac develops into another embryo sac without reduction. The embryo then develops directly from the diploid egg cell without fertilization. Adventive embryony. The development of embryo directly from the diploid cells of ovule lying outside the embryo sac belonging to either nucellus or integuments is referred to as adventive embryony.
There was another term which I mentioned earlier, polyembryony. Polyembryony is a phenomenon where 2 or more embryos get developed from a single fertilized egg. As in humans, identical twins are the result of polyembryony. It occurs very frequently in many plants. So this was all I had to tell you in our today's class. I think Today we have learnt enough about various topics related to plant reproduction. First of all, we discussed about pollen-pistil interaction, where I told you that pollen of the wrong type, either from other species or from the same plant, may land on the stigma, which will not be accepted. Why it happens so? Because the pistil has the ability to recognize the pollen, whether it is of the right type or the wrong type. If it is of the right type, it is called compatible and promotes post-pollination changes. If the pollen is of the wrong